All right, ladies and gentlemen, what's going on? Welcome to TCP episode 55, about to get underway. So, last week's episode, the marathon episode, that was a lot of fun. Now we're back to trading. We've got an options trader on with us. Very, very excited. He also has a pretty nuts background, a pretty nuts story to tell. He's going to be doing it now on TCP. I think that today's conversation is going to be pretty electric. You guys will know why in just a few minutes. Noah, what's going on?
Alejandro, what's good? I'm excited to get back to trading, back to the bread and butter. I think that this episode is going to be really good. Not only in the sense that our guest is a really strong trader and will be able to provide a lot of insight and valuable information for all the traders out there, but he's also, like you said, got a really interesting story, and so I'm excited to share a story with you all.
All right. So without further ado, Default, what's going on, brother? Welcome to the show.
What's up, guys?
All right, man. So we're going to start by asking you just about your background. And as I was kind of leading into, there's an important part of your life that took place before you even started trading that I know you wanted to talk about. I know you wanted to share. So let's start there. Dive right into it, man. There's no other way to kind of get into
Yeah,
this.
for
Go ahead.
sure. It's definitely quite a wild story. So before I got into trading or anything like that, I was in the computer security industry. I was a independent contractor, and I did a lot of things that are called like black hat things. I'm not really sure a lot of the audience is aware of what that is. It's usually like illegal hacking. Um, So that just kind of like led to me getting into cryptocurrency very early, probably around 2011. Started mining, started buying. And this was before there was any exchanges. There was no cryptocurrency exchanges. It was all OTC, which is over the counter. So you had to go into IRC, you had to learn PGP encryption, all that good stuff. Um, so just kept going down that road, and just kept hacking, doing a lot of crazy stuff. And then eventually, right around 2014, I don't know, a lot of people know this about Edward Snowden. He like released stuff having to do with the government spying on us. So basically, me and some friends in a group called CWA hacked the US government, CIA, FBI, DHS, White House, pretty much any government agency you can name. Um, Not for like any financial gain or anything, but just to kind of like make a point that we don't think it's right, and what you're doing to us, we can do to you as well. And our country largely is vulnerable from a security standpoint, which led to obviously prison. And I did 5 years in federal prison, and I've been out for about a year now.
So,
Uh,
okay. So
I know it's a
that's
lot to digest.
no, because I want to get some more details out of you if we can, because
No, of course.
that was a pretty quick overview for something that's fucking crazy, quite honestly. So
Yeah.
let's talk about it. So you were working in the computer industry, cybersecurity. You started hacking. Like, what was it that you were first doing? Because going from like starting to hack to hacking the federal government is like
Honestly, like
that's nuts. That's two different things. So what is it
it
that
was
you were
like
like
in my
first doing?
terms, like I guess somewhat a natural progression because I'm also on on like on Twitter there's tons of sub communities. So like there's FinTwit, there's crypto Twitter, there's also hacker Twitter, which is where I first came from. And a lot of people have like, disdain for the government. They like privacy, all that good stuff. My first hack honestly goes back to like high school when my parents like disabled Wi-Fi and I couldn't play Xbox Live. So like I figured out how to hack Wi-Fi and got back online and kept playing Call of Duty. And from there it just like clicked. I was like, man, this is some powerful stuff. Like
Yeah,
let's delve deeper into this. And it was just a rabbit hole.
yeah,
And just one thing led to another, and it's for all intents and purposes, it's fun because it's like a puzzle. It's like
yeah,
figuring out if you can get into a system. It's like I never really did financial crime. I was just more like entertained by it, like self-taught myself programming, computer security, cryptocurrency mining, and eventually trading now. So I really like preach to people like there's more resources out there than most people are really aware of. Like you can teach yourself to do anything. And yeah, just over the years, just somehow progressively led to hacking the government, which I don't suggest. Don't ever do that. I'm not involved in any kind of like cybersecurity stuff anymore just because of my felonies and I can't get security clearances. So it's honestly the best thing that ever happened to me, also. And people think I'm crazy when I say that because going to federal prison, I met some dudes that like worked on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange for like 30 years trading commodities. They kind of like took me under their wing. And next thing you know, I'm reading the IBD 50 every day. I'm like literally, this is actually like my little notebook from prison right here. And I was just like literally marking down every day what's SPY at, what's the Dow Jones at, what's this new IPO, and just was excited to get out and just like delve into the market. But before I did any of that, I've been trading crypto for like 10 years. Like usually spot, which is the equivalent of shares before like perpetual futures contracts came about. So it was kind of also a natural progression to lead to the stock market because I prefer personally, even to today, trading stocks because it's consistent. There's a lot of consistency. Every morning, 5 days a week, 9:30 to 12 is when I trade. There's volatility, and that volatility equals profit potential, and I love that. Whereas crypto is like 90% consolidation and like 10% violent moves. So like
Right.
that's not very sustainable in my opinion.
Talk more about the early days of crypto, because I feel like a lot of our listeners are really from either that COVID wave where everyone got their stimmy checks and was YOLOing Tesla calls and all that good stuff, and don't really know about what was going on in crypto in early 2011. I know I don't know much about it, so talk to me a little bit about what that was like, and what you learned from those early days in crypto.
Well, for me, like I am first and foremost like I'm a big nerd, I'm a big tech guy. So like when one of my friends told me about Bitcoin, I instantly looked into it, read the white paper, and was just like astounded. I was like, this is the most innovative technology I've seen in my lifetime. It's a no-brainer. So just started delving into what is it? Where is it created? It's literally computers solving the SHA-256 algorithm over and over and over and over and over again, and you get rewarded with blocks of Bitcoin. And so it's a self-sustaining system. It's like these blocks are basically the miners that are facilitating the transactions on the network. And it's decentralized also. So like unless you shut down every miner in the world, you can't stop it. So that's also powerful as well. But really what clicked for me was the underlying blockchain technology. Like that is what is pervasive and will be integrated into everything in the future. I don't care what anyone says because of innovation. It just has to. Like you can't stop innovation. You can stifle it, but you can't stop it. So like Bitcoin is what I really compare to the internet in its early days. Like Bitcoin was the first use case of blockchain, whereas email was the first case of the internet, first use case of the internet. So people could have got them confused. Like back in the day, you might have thought that the internet was just email, when obviously that's not true. Now, back in the day, people thought that the only like Bitcoin is blockchain and it's like interchangeable. It's like that's not really the case. It's actually just the first application of this technology. So just really delved into it, started mining it, and made a lot of money, like a lot of money off of it. But unfortunately, when you get raided by the FBI, they tend to take all of your hard drives and lost about like 973 Bitcoin. So that
Oh
was
my
Damn.
gosh, dude.
like,
At the
you know,
time, I mean, because like at the time, that wasn't
it was $2 million.
like what is it at peak Bitcoin? Do you know?
67 million.
Fucking hell.
Ooh, yeah,
I've come to terms with it.
yeah,
I
yeah.
realize that I'm not a religious person. If you are, that's cool, whatever. I just believe everything happens for a reason. I wouldn't be who I am today if I hadn't gone through all of these experiences. And if you can make a million, 2 million, whatever once, you can make it again. It's not going to be as easy, but you can do it. You know what I mean? It's just going to take hard work and determination. And that's exactly what I'm doing right now. I'm like dedicating my life to trading. My programming skills are coming in handy for writing an algorithm. Like it's just it seems to work out in the end. It's kind of wild.
So talk more about getting raided by the FBI. So we talked about like the early hacking stuff. Now fast forward to um, getting caught by the federal. Like, what was it that you guys were doing? How did you get to that point?
Like what was our big hack?
Yeah.
Well, basically we targeted a guy named John Brennan, who's the former CIA director, and he was using a AOL.com email account for federal use, which is illegal, by the way. It's what Hillary Clinton was on trial for, or was indicted for, or whatever. So, got into his AOL email account, which is extremely easy. Um, from there, we found tons of stuff like his SF-86 form, which is what you use to apply for top secret clearance. So, obviously, I know everything about him. I can reset his passwords on everything. And from there, once you get past the outer limits of any kind of security, the inside is just like mush, and you can just like pivot and move around. And we started getting access to like top secret databases, like the Law Enforcement Enterprise Portal, a bunch of other crazy stuff, and we leaked it all to WikiLeaks. And from there, we just went on a torrent of like targeting all the top officials, like James Comey, FBI director, White House staff, just to really just to drive home the point, like we're not secure as a country, like in cyberspace or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
And our government is reactive, not proactive. So it's like sad that you have to do these kinds of things to make them fix things, because they did fix it and I can prove it in my restitution in which I owe them. Um, but yeah, so tons of stuff, tons of hacks. I don't suggest ever messing with the US government because it's a zero sum game. But at the end of the day, when you hit rock bottom, there's like nowhere to go from up, nowhere to go from there but up. And that's just kind of what I chose. I chose not to waste my time in there. I read
Yeah.
thousands of books. Like I'd read maybe like 5 books in my life before then,
Hmm.
like legitimately, and just tried to become a better person. And I came out with like this insatiable drive that scares people because I missed out on 5 years of my life. And when you're removed from society for 5 years and you come back out, you can see like the amount of opportunity out here that other people don't. And like people literally think that I'm crazy because I'm just so driven. I'm just like, no, there's opportunity everywhere around you. You just have to take the initiative. Like Robinhood wasn't a thing 5 years ago. Like there wasn't this many retail traders in the stock market.
Right.
So, just all types of technological innovation, Shopify, now Airbnb, subleasing. This just you can make money like anywhere you look. You throw a dart and you have an opportunity to make money. And I don't think I'd ever become this person if I hadn't gone to prison, which is kind of sad to say, but you know,
No, but I mean, no, of course, there's, like you said, there's like you took it as an opportunity to become a better person, which, at the end of the day is like, it's kind of what the process is designed
I
to
kind of
be.
really didn't have I mean, I had a choice, but it was a catalyst that I don't think I would have ever made on my own. And most people don't ever have these extreme, life jarring, like, catalysts that it's like it shakes you up because change is uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable. And people naturally don't like being uncomfortable. They like staying in their comfort zone. So if you stay in your comfort zone, you're not going to progress very much. Why would you expect to have different results from anyone else around you if you just keep doing the same thing as everyone else? You have to do something different. And I guess that's the path that I've chosen. And it's working out pretty well, you know?
Yeah, so you get out of prison and you start trading. So how did that happen? How did you make that pivot? How'd you even get into trading? I mean, obviously you were messing around with
Well, I was a
crypto.
crypto trader. I was actually trading crypto in prison. Had a cell phone in prison.
Oh wow.
I was Me and Martin Shkreli, kind of like if you know who that is, Pharma Bro.
I don't
Yeah.
think so. I don't know it is.
He was he was a guy who owned like a big pharmaceutical company and went to prison or whatever. Um, we were trading crypto in prison, and then once I've always thought that like the stock market was like rigged and manipulated, but then as I soon realized, like all markets are to various certain extents, but that doesn't mean you can't make money in them. So as I started learning more and more and more about the stock market, it became very intriguing to me. And I'm a very technical numbers person. So I delved into technical analysis like hardcore, like read as many books as I could. And I actually want to give credit to, I don't know if you know who Jalen is. Jalen Wins on Twitter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never cared about fundamentals ever until him. Like I literally just thought, I mean, and you can, but like I always was just like, who cares what the fundamentals are? Like I'm a technical trader. And him putting me onto that has like taken my trading to like the next level. And I think
Nice.
that you should just become an all well-rounded trader instead of just like hyper focusing on one specific aspect because you're going to miss out on a lot of things. You can look at a chart and it looks great, but guess what? If it's FOMC and JPAL says something crazy, your setup really doesn't mean anything, technically speaking. So yeah, it's just been something that I've become very passionate about to the point of obsession. And I should probably sleep more, to be honest with you. My girlfriend tries to do it, but like make me sleep more, but she's not very effective with it
How many hours
because
of sleep you think you're getting a night?
last time I checked, last month I was getting 3.5,
That's
and now I'm
horrible.
getting I'm up an hour now, so I'm up to 4.5
There you go.
average.
If I
So
get less than 7,
so
I'm like a
progress.
zombie. That's
Yeah.
crazy that you even do that.
But I also realized that like there's the law of diminishing returns. So like you can't stay up and grind and grind and grind for so long to the point where you're actually counterproductive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like a gradual process of me having to like train myself to be like, you should go to sleep. You should probably eat better food. You should probably get back in the gym. Like your mental health is probably like one of the most important parts of trading. Like, and I stress this to people like
Yeah.
hardcore. Like the average person can learn the technicals and fundamentals relatively quickly, but it's that mental stability and fortitude that takes you to the next level. And without that, you cannot go to the next level. You just can't, because if you could, then everybody would be an amazing trader just learning EMAs and fibs and things of that nature. It's majority of trading is mental. And so there's always room to improve. Try to learn every day. Try to stay open-minded. And I love trading. I didn't do very good today though. Broke some of my rules, but it happens. you know?
Yeah.
You know, it definitely happens. Talk about
Definitely
the
happens.
last talk about the last, 3 or so years. So you got out and like you said, you're in a situation where you find an abundance of opportunity around you. How do you go about taking advantage of this opportunity that you're seeing around you? How do you go about really becoming the best trader that you can, feeling that you've given up, or lost really 5 years of opportunity, while you were in prison? Talk about what that last 3 years has looked like for you, and how have you been able to get yourself back up on your feet and back,
Did you
grinding
say
and being
3
successful?
years? Because I've only been out of prison for 1 year.
Oh, my bad. 1 year. Talk about the last one
Yeah.
year then.
So, first of all, I would attribute the majority of my success to in prison, I studied psychology a lot because I wanted to learn everything I could. And some of the biggest aspects and key features that I took away from that was don't assume you know everything. Stop thinking you know everything because you don't. You can learn something from anybody. I literally learned things from people who were like, for all intents and purposes, like looked like homeless people. And they taught me some of the best life lessons you could ever imagine. And that goes for traders too. Just because someone doesn't have 50,000 followers, that doesn't mean that they might not have some beneficial information from you. I just feel like in Finchwit, there's just like this level of arrogance that I just really despise. At I just try to tell people like humility and being open-minded. That doesn't mean being gullible and taking everyone's word at face value. Just listen to other people. And if what they have to say is useful, you can absorb that knowledge and integrate it. And if it's not, you discard it. It's that simple. And you just keep doing that over and over, learning from your mistakes. And on a long enough time frame, I try to tell people that you will be successful. I've blown up many accounts. I don't believe a lot of people that say I've never blown up an account and I've got a 100% success rate. Like, I don't believe them. And then I'm saying it's not possible to not blow up an account, but the majority of people have, and that's usually referred to as your trading tuition. You know, how much max pain do you have to like realize to start taking this very seriously? For me, that was like the majority of my money when I got out. I was grinding it out at like KFC, bro. Like, had to have humility to go to KFC, make literally almost nothing, and then come back because I was in the halfway house and just spend the rest of the night just like trading crypto, reading, learning not fundamentals, but more technical analysis strategies, implementing them, some winning, some not, logging it, always reviewing your trades, not just your losers, but your winners too, because you need to know why you're winning, not just why you're losing. And like I said, those are two of probably the biggest things that have led to my progression is being open-minded and being objective to other people's perspectives, no matter who they are. And I think a lot of people take that for granted and like just kind of assume that they know more than other people, which is you might, but that doesn't mean you know everything because nobody does.
Well, the funny thing too about the stock market is the minute you think you know everything is when the market reminds you that you don't know shit, right?
Not
It's like
only that,
any
is the minute that you think you know everything is the minute you stop learning and you
yeah.
stop progressing. So why
Yeah.
would you want to do that?
And another thing is like, Noah put out a really good thread the other day. He's like, I've been trading for 5 years now. And, he was saying in his thread that he would have thought at this point he would have it all figured out. You realize if you're not willing to constantly be adapting, constantly willing to learn, admitting that you're wrong, that's the hardest thing too. It's like once you've been trading for a little while and you make a mistake, like you think, oh, well, like I have like trading experience now. Like I can't be wrong. Like I like this. Oh, the market's wrong, right? Like oh,
So toxic.
you gotta let that guard down, and that's why I make it a point, especially like on my Twitter. Like if I do poorly, it's like, look, I'm gonna do whatever it takes now to, find the mistake and not repeat that mistake. And, you know, whether you're trading for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, there's gonna be times where you do some really stupid shit. But
Yeah.
if you can learn, you eventually become like the closest version of like a juggernaut as you could possibly become. But if you have that ego where you're like, no, like any trade I take, it has to be right. If it wasn't right, it's because there's something messed up with the market. That that gets you nowhere. It gets you
You should
absolutely
never
nowhere.
ever go into any trade like expecting or like needing to make money because you're
Hmm.
coming at it from a perspective of lack, and you're usually going to lose money because you're going to probably refuse to cut it your trade when it should be cut.
Yeah.
Go into it basically. I know everyone says this, and I'm guilty of it too. Unbiased. We're all biased to some extent, whether we want to admit it or not. But having that respect for your levels, for your rules, and I break my rules all the time. Not all the time, but more than I would like to. Like today, one of my biggest rules is just from reviewing all my trades. Um, I like to stop trading around 11:30 to 12 for the
Yep.
day. And statistically, maybe some days I make money past that, maybe some I don't. But over the long enough time frame, I lose money. So that's one of my rules, and I broke that today. I was very profitable by like 11 o'clock today. Went, ate lunch, came back, saw some what looked like really good setups, gave back all my gains, and
Yeah.
then some, like a
Yeah.
lot of some. So like
Yeah.
it's just basically the universe teaching you, like, every time you break your rules, you're gonna learn. I don't know how many times you're gonna have to keep doing this, but at least acknowledging it and making progress and not doing it as much has led to being wildly more successful, to the point where I'm still like flabbergasted that I like do this for a living. Like
Mhm.
literally, my friends in real life or whatever, they don't believe it, bro. They literally think it's all fake. I'm like, no, like this is like you can really do this. And I'm
Mhm.
honestly like a small fry compared to some of these guys. Like people make like $1 million a day in the stock market. Like this is a real thing. They're like,
Yeah.
there's no way you made $3,000 today by lunch. I'm like, I mean, I could show you. Like it's real. I didn't happen overnight, and I have to risk my money, and I don't win every day. But guess what? If you have a risk management policy, which is really your only edge against the market, is if you stick to that in a long enough time frame, you will be profitable. And just most people just refuse to believe that. But that's okay. You know what I mean? That's their prerogative.
Keyword if you stick to that. It's the big if, right?
It is. That's why I have it written right here on this whiteboard. And it's like I get up in the morning and I like repeat it like a mantra. Like it's like my
Yeah.
shrine. But still sometimes it's just like the market gets the better of you, and it's honestly basically greed. You're like, oh man, I made good money, but this looks good, let me try to make some more money, instead of just walking away and being done for the
It's
day.
never enough.
It's also that mindset too when you're in profit. It's like this isn't really a loss if I take this loss. I just made
Yeah,
three
I can
thousand
play with
dollars. If
profits.
I lose $1,000 of this 3 grand, I will have only made 2 grand. I didn't lose a
Yeah,
grand. I
Can we
only made
talk
two
about
grand.
that? Like
but then
playing
it
with
never
profits.
stops. But
I
then it
hate
never
that.
stops, right?
I
What?
hate when, and I'm guilty of it too, but I
Oh, yeah,
hate the
of
whole like,
course.
I'm, taking like a lotto with profits. Like, what the
Yeah.
hell is the difference between like profits?
Why
Like,
don't you
that's
just throw it
still
away?
money. Yeah,
Are you
that's
Why don't you
still,
just throw
subtweeting?
it
Are you
away?
subtweeting Coach Tipka? Is that what you're doing?
I didn't want to have to say it. Coach Dipka, he's not listening to this. He's not listening to this.
I'm guilty of that as well. Like another rule I added is I don't care how amazing, how locked in it is. I'm never playing earnings again. I don't care.
Hell
Not
no.
if I'm up $10,000 on the day. I'm not throwing even $50 at earnings, because it might maybe gap down 30% or gap up. Your risk to reward ratio on earnings is insanely terrible, even if you're right. With the expected move and the potential implied volatility, the numbers are so against you. It's not even, you might as well just like take your money and throw it away. Because, say, for instance, you lose 9 times out of 10, and that 1/10 of the time hits for like 5, 6, 700, 8%. I mean, how much money did you really put into it? And is that even going to cover all of your losses to break even or be profitable? To me, it's all about risk to reward ratios. And I like to focus on good risk to reward ratios. And that is just not one.
Talk a little
And
bit
like,
about Frank. Aren't you good? You're good friends with Frank, right? We had Frank on the podcast a while ago, and
yeah,
obviously
actually,
Frank is notorious for
he's a
his
degen,
crazy earnings
bro.
plays. Yeah, I mean this
He's,
guy
I
makes
love the dude to death.
The
crazy.
I met
luckiest
him,
dude on planet Earth.
I met him for the first time at EDC, and we're probably gonna be like lifelong friends, man. He's like a super good guy, really humble, but he's a degen. But look where it's gotten him. I mean, he slowed down on the degeneracy somewhat, but
Didn't he throw
super
half
good
a million
guy.
dollars at Meta
Meta
earnings like a
earnings, yeah.
couple of weeks ago?
Dude, I mean, I'd keep doing it
Um,
too if I kept winning.
yeah.
Like
I
what?
actually sent him a tweet about Amazon then like 5 minutes before close. I was like, dude, check this out. And it just like completely like shit the bed, bro. Like the Amazon earnings was I'm pretty sure it was Amazon, was it not?
Was it? I think the
Yeah, they
first
were
one might
down
have
like
been Meta, and then the
13%.
second one was
It
Amazon.
was like insane. And
Mhm.
he was like, "Why didn't you text me earlier, bro? I would have thrown my profits from the previous whatever crazy earnings he made like 1.6 mil on or whatever."
Mhm.
Um, but I hate earnings. I just feel like it's a market maker's wet dream. They just like love it. They're like burn premiums on both sides. Like, you both lose, but we win. I'll see you next
Yeah.
time. Do it again. Play with some profits,
Play with
you
some
know?
profits. I don't know. I want to talk about that, Hondo, because that's a good point. I feel like it is like a different. It's an interesting mindset because I think where you're going with it is like it can induce you to take bad trades where it's like this setup isn't great, but I have profits, so let me throw my profits at it. Which you're right. If that's what you're doing, it is bad. But at the same time, I
It's
feel like
gambling.
no, but I'm talking about like if it's within your risk framework, not I'm not talking like
He's not
lottos on
talking about
earnings.
earnings. He's not talking about
Yeah, yeah,
earnings.
yeah.
He's
So
talking about
I'm
Okay,
not
okay,
talking
gambling
about like
okay,
a
profit.
lotto on
yeah,
earnings. I'm talking about like a
yeah.
trade that's within your framework, and you're saying, you know, maybe you only take, certain setups, right? And this setup has one thing wrong with it, and you're like, you know what? I have profits on the day. I will take this trade, risking those profits. I made $500. I'm not going to put, all $500 in it. I'll put $1,000 in it, and I'll use 25% stop loss. I'll lose 250, and I'll still have 250 left in the day. That
I
type of
see
thing.
that's somewhat more acceptable, but like I'm pretty strict on like realizing what's made me the most profit, and
Mhm.
it's I have a setup, and if those parameters aren't met, I don't take a trade. And when they're met, I sometimes mash the gas a little bit harder than I should because I'm an intraday scalper. I mostly stick to supply and demand. Um, Obviously, I use my algo that helps me, and I use volume profiles. I keep it pretty simple, because you can overcomplicate things. You see those new traders with like 50 indicators on, and I'm like, what is that? Like,
Can't see the
you,
candles on
you
the
have
on the.
no idea. Like, I can't even like see the candles.
Mhm.
Like, what's going on? Um, but obviously, I also break that rule sometimes too, trying to like again, greed is like very powerful, man. It's also the arrogance. Like my worst losses have all come from right after my best streaks. Like I was like green for like 2 months straight. Every single day I was green, and then I started getting away from those same rules that had made me green for 60 days, becoming arrogant and big-headed, that I started breaking them and getting on tilt, and it just goes terribly.
Yeah.
So
It's
it's all about just finding your system, finding your edge, and sticking to it.
it's funny you say that because we had a pod back over the summer where like 6 or 7 of us from or 5 or 6 of us from Kane were on, and we all talked about our biggest losses ever. And I want to say there was 5 of us on. I want to say for 4 of the 5 of us, or I think for all 5 of us, it was the exact same thing. Everybody's biggest loss came after a spell of somewhat unexpected success, right? And it's like that is really kind of what plagues you, right? Like you get out of that zone that got you there in the first place and start to think that you know a little bit more than you actually do. And that goes right back to Alejandra's point that once you think you know what you're doing, once you think you've got it down, the market will swiftly remind you that you do not.
You got to try to stay humble, bro. Like, it's hard to do when you're like making this kind of money that like other people think isn't even real. And to me, I still haven't come to terms with it because like I said a year ago when I got out, I was working at KFC for basically nothing. It's like illegal to pay minimum wage, I think. And then I was working construction for a very short time, very hard physical labor, to like now having some days where I make 1,000, 2, 3, 4, $5,000 in a day in 2 hours. Like, I
Mhm.
still have a hard time wrapping my head around that. Like, this is a simulation. Like, this cannot be real. Like, there's no way that other people are like slaving away and like I'm sitting here on my computer in my house, like clicking on like hotkeys and like active trader and like being like, I think I'm done for the day. I'm gonna go do something. Like, why didn't I know about this like 10 years ago? Like,
That's exactly Alejandro mentioned the thread that I wrote over the weekend. That's one of the points that I made in that thread is like, even if you're not making thousands of dollars like a day, like to make $200 before 11 o'clock and then have the rest of the day to decide what you're going to do.
but that
Like,
$200 eventually will lead up to that.
right. But
People
even for
really,
somebody who makes $200, right.
of
And like,
course, yeah. If you can
even for
make
that person, it's like, a, that's a crazy way to live to make $200 and then go do whatever you
that
want to
was
do.
that was literally my mindset when I quit my job. I said, if I can make the same amount of money I make every day, maybe even less, doing what I love, why wouldn't I? Because guess what? At the end of the day, you can just go get another job. Unless you have like some amazing job with the 401k and all these benefits and stuff. If you're working a shit job, bro, I always tell people like whatever you love doing or want to do, go do it. Go try it. At least say you tried. And then if it doesn't work out, go get another job. Like, it's that simple. And it just worked out for me. But it wasn't easy. Like, I mean, it's been very mentally stressful. Like, I've gone like probably one time I almost went 2 weeks without sleep just because I just was just going way, way, way too hard. Like, but now I'm trying to like get into a more even keel of things, find a rhythm, sleep more, eat better, and work out and stick to my rules. And when you do that and you find a rhythm, it's almost like becomes second nature. It's like you're not even like thinking anymore. It's like you're there, you see your setup, you click your contracts, you set your take loss, your stop loss, your take profits. I don't even really use those unless I'm swinging because I trade SPX and it's so volatile. I'm not about to get wicked out.
You don't use a stop
And
loss.
no, I manually sit there with my finger on the trigger. Um, because I love active trader. I can just get in
Yeah.
and out of a position with like half of a millisecond.
TD Ameritrade's good
Um,
with that. Yeah.
and it's just I don't know, man. It's just it's wild at the end of the day that and also this is the only profession that I can think of that has literally limitless potential for upside. I can't think of another profession that has that. Like
That's
not
why it's
even
so difficult.
selling. Like you can't sell but so many products to so many people in the world. I mean, yes, a lot, but like there's a finite like limit in the stock market. We don't do shit but just like exchange money. We like pass money around to each other, and whoever holds the most at the end of the day. And so there's no real limit to how much you can hold over an extended period of time. So I don't see why people wouldn't devote thousands of hours of screen time
Yeah.
to like this profession unless you just aren't a technical person or something like that.
So I want you to talk about your strategies a bit more specifically. So you mentioned supply and demand, volume profile. What is it that you're doing day to day? Like what does defaults trading actually look like?
So, like I said, supply and demand, very straightforward. Obviously, some support and resistance. I mean, it's nothing crazy.
Only SPX?
No, not that's my bread and butter. But when I go through my giant list of tickers, I use my algo and it has certain signals on it that bring stuff to my attention. So I'll start compiling those into a list, and then I'll work my way down from the 1 day to the 4 hour to the 1 hour, and whichever ones look better and better and better, I'll just keep making that a more and more finite list, because you shouldn't have a watch list that's like 20 tickers. That's just insanity, and you're not going to be able to watch all of those intraday and like be profitable. I also don't manage more than one trade at a time unless it's a swing. Um, so I do that until I whittle it down to like, I don't know, or six tickers, and then I mark my zones. Actually, I just added a new feature to my algo that automatically draws supply and demand zones, which is nice.
Nice.
Um, Still needs some tweaking and stuff like that, but it's very helpful. And it's really not. I Most people already know this if they've been trading for a while. There's a very, very negative connotation around trading algorithms. And I understand that, and it deserves it, because the 99% of them are scams. They're pivot high low like bullcrap. They're not real algorithms. But people also don't understand that roughly 73% of the volume on the stock market is algorithmic bots trading from hedge funds. So when people are like, "Oh, those aren't real," it's like they're very real, and they're implemented every day. They're what moved the market. We don't move the market. The retail, we couldn't move SPY $5 if we tried. Like, this is hedge funds. These are market makers. They're going and grabbing liquidity, and they're most of the time doing this with bots. No one's really sitting there clicking like $100 million orders over and over again, like with a mouse, because when you're dealing with that amount of capital, like literal pennies matter. So I know there's a bad connotation around it, but like people like, I don't know if you know Adam Sliver Trades or whatever. He's a big fan of it. There's some other people. I'm not gonna name them because I haven't asked if I can like name them, so I'm just not gonna throw their names out. But you know who they are, and it's it's real. I mean, I've been literally working on this for a year. It's been like, and the funny thing is that I never intended it to become what it has. Like, I literally made a tool for myself on TOS, and people started asking what that was, and all it did was just list standard deviations on stocks and where they were at in regards to standard deviation. And people were like, "What is that?" And I'm like, it's this thing I made." And they're like, "Can I buy it?" And I was like, "Sure, why not?" So as I started to kind of see demand, I rewrote it for TradingView. And then since then, I just turned it into a whole algorithm, and I just started adding more and more stuff. Just optimized it last night to be like 10 times faster. And it's just taken on a life of its own. And I'm actually working with, I can't say their name yet, but a potential partnership for a bot platform to integrate with the algorithm to do automated bot trading for crypto just for now, hopefully in the future for futures, shares, and options as well. But that's, that'll probably take a while to
Yeah.
do because it's a lot different dealing with options than it is perpetual contracts where you don't have to deal with like implied volatility and the Greeks and all that kind of stuff and
Yeah.
potential SEC bylaws. But so yeah, lots of crazy stuff's going on and pretty excited, not gonna lie.
We definitely got to check the bot out. I think it's when you talk about entrepreneurship, I feel like one of the common like I guess threads that I always hear from like entrepreneurship people is like build something that you would use, right?
Entrepreneurship people.
And
You
that,
mean
and that's the
entrepreneurs?
No, but like you know what I mean, like not like the
yeah.
actual entrepreneurs, like the people on
Uh,
Instagram or like selling
So
courses.
how many people like shill stuff that like
yeah.
they don't use? I can tell
Yeah,
you
yeah,
100% for a fact, I use this every single day trading.
yeah. That's what I
And
mean.
how
You
many
built
people
something
can
that you
say that
use.
they do that? Because I honestly built it for myself at
Exactly.
first. And
Mhm.
then now there's just become a demand for it because honestly, it's not a dummy algo. It's not a buy here, sell here, we're going to make you $1 million. I refer to it as a confluence algo. So, like, when you combine it with whatever technical analysis strategy you were already going to use, it adds that extra confidence and confluence. And also, it helps me make my daily watch list. And eventually, there'll be automated trading. I don't know how long that's going to take because that's a whole lot more programming. And, you know, so we'll see how that goes. It's also called Apollo Algo, by the way. I don't think I ever said that.
Gotcha, Apollo Algo. I was just gonna say congratulations on all the success that you've had up to this point. I mean, regardless of what happens in the future, and I'm sure you're gonna take this thing a long way. I mean, your story is incredible, and it's very inspirational. The things that you've been able to accomplish in this short year, it really goes to show what trading can do for somebody when they put their mind to it. And I hope that everybody that listens to this episode realizes that regardless of your background, regardless of your situation, if you want it bad enough. And, it sounds corny. I mean, wanting it bad enough is one thing, but you have made it clear that you are putting in the work required in order to become a successful, profitable trader. And so people who listen to this, I hope can realize that, hey, regardless of whether or not you're putting in the work right now, work smarter, not harder, right? Think about the things that you need to do in order to become better. Think about what it is that you're doing wrong and put focus in those areas. I talked about in a tweet the other day, a lot of people waste a lot of their fucking time just watching every tick on the screen, thinking that something magically is going to pop in your head. If you're losing and you're just watching every tick on the 5 minute chart, take some of that time, an hour or two, and think about, how can you apply yourself differently in order to improve your strategy, back test, do something more productive that's going to result in you turning things around, right? On the weekend, use that time because you're not distracted by the market. The market is closed. So you have that opportunity to just, okay, let me look at what it is I'm doing. Let me focus. Let me try to make improvements, tweak here, this, that, and the other. The market is constantly shifting. So if you're struggling, you got to realize that you got to stay on top of things and you have to be willing to adapt. You got to be agile. And of course, you got to put in the work. And default, that's exactly what you've done, man. And I appreciate you coming on the podcast. I think that everybody's going to love your story. Crazy
No, I
shit, man.
appreciate y'all having me, man, for real. I'm a big fan of the podcast. Y'all have had a lot of
Yeah.
legends up here, so I'm happy to be
Oh, we
added
just
to
had
the
another one.
list.
We just had another one.
Wow.
No, you're a beast, man. And no, seriously, I'm excited to see what you're gonna do. Like over the next year, dude. You've done all this in 1 year. Crazy,
Dude, I
man.
don't even want to
Good for you.
extrapolate what can happen in another year, dude. Like if whatever, I'm not political, but like if Trump can like just give us another bull run or something like that, like
yeah.
because I wasn't there for that, like
Yeah.
oh my gosh, like
Yeah. I mean, if the market turns around, that's a whole different story. That's a
yeah, right
whole
now
different story.
it's a really interesting time right now in the market. There's a lot of interesting things going on. So being very cautious right now because it's not like high confidence throw swings in with like size time right now. Right now it's kind of like a scalper's market. in
Yeah.
my opinion at least.
No, I
But
agree. I 100% agree. But yeah, man. All right, we'll go ahead and wrap up the show here. Again, thank you for coming on. We really appreciate it, man.
no problem, man. Y'all have a good day. I appreciate it.
You too, man. Noah, another killer episode. I'll see you next week for episode 56.
Yep. Take care, guys. See you next week.